Welcome back to another in our series of the great chapters in the Bible. Our chapter today is found in the Old Testament book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 3, Moses and the burning bush. Beginning in verse 1. Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. And he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. And he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land of a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now, behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? He said, But I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you, when you have brought the people out of Egypt, and you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, Say this to the people of Israel, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever. And thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt. And I promise that I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt, to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now, please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders that I will do in it. After that he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And when you go, you shall not go empty. But each woman shall ask of her neighbor, and any woman who lives in her house, for silver and gold, jewelry, and for clothing. You shall put them on your sons and on your daughters. So you shall plunder the Egyptians. I am often amazed when I talk to people that I have known for some time and find something that I had not previously known. I remember my father in his later years telling me that he had seen Elvis in concert as a young man. Another man who had served in World War II had actually met General Patton. Another man had served in the real 4077 MASH unit in Korea. People weren't necessarily keeping secrets, but didn't always talk about their past. Many times it was at their funeral that something significant about their past was brought to light. Can you imagine being one of the people in ancient times and discovering that your good friend Moses was raised in Pharaoh's court? Or like Aaron and Miriam discovering that your long-lost brother had been tending sheep in the middle of nowhere for 40 years. There are huge gaps in Moses' life. From the time he was found by Pharaoh's daughter in a basket among the reeds in a river at 3 months old until he was 40, all we are told is that he was raised by his mother, and when he was older, he was brought to Pharaoh's daughter to be raised. Stephen in Acts 7 tells us, verses 21 and 23, when he was exposed, Pharaoh's daughter adopted him and brought him up as her own son. And Moses was instructed in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was mighty in his words and deeds. When he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brothers, the children of Israel. The writer of Hebrews gives us a little more insight into Moses' life when he tells us in Hebrews 11, verses 23 through 26, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw that the child was beautiful. They were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he was grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. You can live a lot of life in 40 years. But wait, there's more. All that the writer of Hebrews tells us of the next 40 years is this in Hebrews 11:27. By faith he left Egypt, not being afraid of the anger of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Stephen gives us a little more in Acts 7 when he tells us, at this retort Moses fled and became an exile in the land of Midian, where he became the father of 2 sons. Now, when 40 years had passed, an angel appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai in a flame of fire in a bush. That's 80 years. And his resume reads something like this: born a Hebrew, put into a basket, found in a river by Pharaoh's daughter, raised by his mother as a wet nurse, so to speak, and educated in Egypt, killed a man at 40, exiled where he marries a woman, has 2 sons, and shepherds sheep for his father-in-law for the next 40 years. That's it. In our recent U.S. history, a Supreme Court nominee had over 200,000 pages of documents about his work as an appointed judge for review. The process of vetting, or as we're told, the process of investigating someone thoroughly, especially in order to ensure that they are suitable for a job requiring secrecy, loyalty, and trustworthiness, according to the definition in the dictionary, is commonplace in our modern world. Yet Moses is chosen by God to lead his people in arguably one of the greatest mass immigrations in world history. Would you or I have put his name in for consideration for this job in today's world? Not likely. He would never survive the short list of nominees for the position and likely be laughed at. In fact, Stephen tells us that, in effect, the Israelites had rejected him once before. In Acts 7:35, we're told, this Moses whom they rejected, saying, who made you ruler or judge? This man God sent as both ruler and redeemer by the hand of an angel who appeared to him in the bush. But God knows far more than we do and has forged this man into the shepherd he needs. Moses' reaction to learning that he has been chosen is really what is to be expected in Exodus 3, verse 11. Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? It may be easy in our easy chair critic seat, find it convenient to criticize Moses for his lack of willingness to accept the position of ruler and redeemer, as Stephen refers to him in Acts 7:35. But the reality is that perhaps that is part of the quality that qualifies him. After all, one day we will read this description of him in Numbers 12:3. Now the man Moses was very meek, more than all the people who were on the face of the earth. Now I'm not saying that God was pleased to the extent to which Moses was willing to go to get out of his job. For eventually the conversation leads to this in the next chapter, Exodus 4, verses 12 and 13. Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. But he said, O my Lord, please send someone else. God identifies himself to Moses in Exodus 3:14. I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Interestingly enough, this is exactly who Jesus identifies himself as when he says in John 8:57 through 58. So the Jews said to him, you are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Have you ever considered how special you and I are in light of what Paul tells us in his letter to the Ephesians, in Ephesians 1:4? Even as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him. We may not have been chosen to build an ark, or to leave Ur of the Chaldees, or to languish in an Egyptian prison, or lead a nation out of bondage, or leave our nets and become fishers of men, or be called on the Damascus road. But we are chosen nonetheless. Have you begun to grasp that concept yet? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow and look at another great chapter in the Bible.